Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups, limited beliefs, relationship issues, and situationships. If you got a story or something you want to ask me about, go to writemac.com, send it in, and we could review it on a video just like this. Otherwise, let's get into it. Something new today. So I have a client that I've worked with in the past, and we're in email contact, just like a lot of my clients. And he said instead of writing out a story, he wanted to submit a video. So he's got a YouTube channel himself, Sex with Gods, if you want to check that out. He's got about an 18-minute video here that I'll review. I started watching it, and I thought, after about 4 or 5 minutes, I thought, wait a minute, let me watch this fresh so you can see my reaction to it without being premeditated. So basically, he starts out with, I think this is a shit test. So what is the best response to a shit test? Now, I looked up on Google just to see the clarification, and people don't realize a lot of these terms from books and different things like that, they're new to the English language, right? They haven't been around in the 1800s or the early 1900s. They're new. And so it's interesting to hear what the definition of a shit test is. So it says a shit test is a premeditated social challenge set up by a man or a woman. Right off the bat, I think men and women both will do a shit test. Women definitely do them more often. But I would say that it's not premeditated consciously. I don't think that that's true. I think that some people, when they're dating, a lot of times it's not premeditated. It's just reactive or their personality. Okay, so I don't know if they plan before they go on a date that they're gonna okay, once we get to this point, I'm gonna pull out the shit test. So that's the part I'm not sure, but a social challenge set up by a man or woman, okay, I could ride with that. But usually a woman, so a shit test is a premeditated social challenge set up by a man or a woman, but usually a woman to test and assess the target's reaction to the social challenge. Shit tests most often refer to dating and seduction. And as a rule of thumb, the person who shit tests is the person who chooses. Now, that part I agree with. The person who cares less rules the relationship. There's a lot of these sayings and generalizations that I think have room for interpretation. That one doesn't. That one rides. The person who cares less rules the relationship. Now, the person that cares less can change in the relationship. So that's where someone could be together for 5 years, 6 years, and something changes. Something changes. One person becomes weaker and the other person becomes stronger due to money, job, status, body, and the tables turn. That is possible. So the person that's going to be doing the shit test is the person that feels like they have a little bit more power. Okay. Now, I have some things here, how to overcome them. These are just quick hitters for me. And like I've told people before, I don't identify as a dating coach or definitely not a pickup artist. But I will review after this video a channel that I think is really good with quote unquote game. And the way the guy breaks things down is very clear. And his opinion of dealing with a shit test. But before we get started, to me, number one, be you. Because being authentic, genuine, and honest is natural. It erases or dilutes insecurities, okay? And it makes it so when you're shit tested, you're being authentic to who you are in your opinion. You're not filtering through a stream of, oh, if I say this, will she like me? Oh, if I say this, will I ruin things? And this is kind of thing some people have to be at a job. They feel like they have to be an act. I would say the biggest counter is to be you. Okay. If you don't like who you are, that's a whole nother subject. If you think your opinion's out of line sometimes, that's a whole nother subject. Okay. Don't give in to an opinion you don't line up with. So that right there you won't pass the test. Because body language and tone are actually more than half of how communication is received and perceived. Okay. And so when you agree with something you don't really agree with, you probably get uncomfortable. You probably go like this. You probably do something that unconsciously the other person picks up. So just realize if you don't agree, you're talking politics. I've had clients like this that have broken up over politics, over the last election. It's like, if that's something that you're really passionate about and you can't give in on, don't give in on it, because it's not going to make it more attractive for you. There was a guy in his early 20s. This was not this last election, but the prior one. He was a Trump fan. He was like 23, 24. And his girlfriend was anti-Trump, and she would get in these arguments with him, hysterically crying, demanding that he change his political views. And he was like, I've done a lot of research on this, and I'm like, you got to stand by it, because you give into this, what's next? And the idea that you guys don't line up on this, it's okay. Keep your balls and your dignity. Because like I said, maybe you give in on that, and then it makes you give in on everything else, and it makes you just weaker. Okay? Whether I agree with his viewpoint or not doesn't matter. It's just being authentic and genuine to him. Now, when someone shit tests you, I'm going to get to that in a moment, asking really good questions to make them reestablish what their viewpoint is a way to get out of the way of you having to answer to something you don't want to answer to. Now, number 4, don't make assumption or take things personally. This is huge. I've mentioned this to many people. If there's one self-help book out there that's simplistic, it's just like Corey Wayne's dating advice, 3% Man. One of the reasons it really resonates with people, it's very simplistic, it's actionable, it's understandable, it's not esoteric, okay? The 4 agreements. It's tell the truth, don't make assumptions, don't take things personally, and do your best. Now, he spends a whole book explaining how to do this and why to do it, but if you can get there, and during a shit test, don't make assumptions or take things personally. And as human beings, we automatically do that a lot, okay? And so if you can somehow channel that, and the best way to not make assumptions is ask good questions. Pause before you react. The best way to not take things personally, also ask good questions or go with it. Someone says something that you think maybe was a dig at you, instead of reacting to it in a defensive manner, you could say, I guess you're right. Sometimes I eat with my mouth open. It's kind of a bad habit. Instead of, oh my God, I do eat with my mouth open. And you start getting all defensive and shit. Number 5, ask questions that make them better explain their point. So this is one of that you can just keep. If you get shit tested and you get stuck and this is the way, you don't want to be reactive. You're stuck for a moment. You're like, wait a minute. You're pondering within your head. Is this a shit test? Instead of going deep, instead of coming up with some kind of explanation or a sharp comeback, ask some more questions to clarify their point. Number 6, that's a good question. So they come up with a question and you don't really know about it. You're not sure how to answer it. You don't know a whole lot about that. Do not try to be a fake expert or, oh yeah, my mother's brother's cousin's son did that before, and make up some shit to sound interesting. Be okay with not knowing the answer. Be okay with not making shit up. I have this all the time because in my space, there's people doing tons of research on breakups and relationships. And so they got a magazine. And when I say a magazine, I mean on a gun. They have ammunition. Well, do you know about attachment theory? You know about this? Sometimes I don't know all the stuff, so I ask them to explain what they're talking about a little deeper. And what they're trying to do sometimes, and I don't take this personally, they want to show off all this research that they've done and all this stuff that they know, right? And they're really, well, I know about attachment theory. I know about this. I know about shit tests. All the information's out there, right? But what they're not doing that's different is they're just applying it to themselves and their little network, their relationships. Me, I'm dealing with random people from all over the world all the time with different stories, different outlooks, different life experiences, different races, different cultures. It's much different. But I don't need to take that personally and explain that to them. I wanted to see where they're coming from first. So I go with it rather than fight it. You know what? I don't always think attachment theory works in explaining everything. It's a theory. I don't believe in it. But tell me what you think about it. Now, that's not me discounting their viewpoint. It's just getting to learn and understand them better. So be okay with not knowing the answer and be okay with, that's a good question. Number 7, don't get cat pawed around. Now, this is a statement that I've said before, cat pawing. And it's basically, men can do it too, but women will she's just playing with you. She's playing with you like a cat paws a toy or something. She's not that interested, but she's just putting out a little something out there to mess with you, to get your attention, then pull back. That's not a shit test. That's a woman that's not interested, but she likes your attention. So she asks you tough questions, puts you on the spot, and she keeps putting herself on a pedestal of intelligence, of you needing to go to work for her, and she's just playing with you. She's not even really interested that much. And you need to identify that as a separate thing, as a shit test. The way it overlaps with shit testing is that women that cat paw guys and play with them will shit test them all the time for fun. And the only part, like I said in the beginning of this video, that's different, I don't think they premeditate this. I think it's just how they are. People have programs that they're running, patterns that they're running in their 20s and 30s, and they'll do the same set of things with different people, and they don't even know they're doing it unless they talk to a therapist, do some hypnotherapy, and unwind things. Okay? Number 8, decide if you want to play that game of overcoming a shit test. This is a great one. So if you get shit tested and you're like, that's too, because I mean, this is another generalization. What's the shit test, right? If you feel like I don't need to answer that question, or this is a test I don't want to take. We're not in school anymore. I'm not going to jump through fucking fire hoops so we can go on another date. Decide you don't want to play anymore and just be like, all right, don't take it personal. Don't make assumptions. Just be like, this kind of game that I'm trying to overcome. And this is why, when you get into the pickup world, it's like, what's the deal? Are you just to get as many women as you can, or you know what I mean? And really, there's a pickup world for women too now. It's just a different game that's being played. But if you get caught in one of those nets where someone's just toying or cat pawing around with you, then just get out. Don't try to figure it out and win the game just because you're attracted to them, because it's going to be a mind fuck. And people have been in those situations. I'm one of those. If I'm dating a woman and there's too many shit tests, which I haven't really witnessed too many times, it's just just don't go out again. It's all right. No problem. I don't take it personally. I don't want to play that game. I'm not going to get cat pawed around and played with. Okay. So we got 6 on deck. Yo, Skinner, how you doing? Chicago's finest. I hope you're well, my friend. Anyone else that's on deck, we're at the 13-minute mark. Go to rightmac.com if you want to send in your story. I'm over here tapping my karate chop hand saying I did my best. Good for you, BW. It helps. How when you're going through relationship stuff, work issues, whatever, how you talk to yourself fucking counts, man. Right? It counts. And he's talking about emotional freedom technique with the tapping. It's something that I use with clients when they're going through a breakup that works quite well at getting you to baseline. So you got a high anxiety level, depression, worry, your mind's going crazy, just to get you to baseline to calm down a little bit. It works really well. Ironically, Ben W., one of my other clients that used this profusely because he was just getting massive anxiety. He even told me that he went into a janitor's closet at work, and was doing the tapping to calm down. And he's like, I felt like it saved my life because he was just getting all these dark thoughts. And there was a group of psychology students that went to his university, and he was talking to them about EFT, emotional freedom technique, this method of tapping. And they told him, oh, that's just a placebo. because it counters their textbook reading. But here's the thing about placebos. They work. That's the thing about it. It's like a pill's a placebo. Belief is your most powerful thing, right? 25 to 30% of pharmaceuticals go through a placebo testing, and it comes back that 25 to 30% of the sugar pills that people take that have nothing in them to change your chemistry in your body, they actually work just by the fact that someone believes it works. Now, the tapping thing, I don't think that's true. I think that there's something more to that. We're on the meridian points and all those other things. But here's the thing. If it works, if it helps you, go with it. Don't fight it and go, oh, wait a minute. This isn't in PhD Joe Johnson, 30 years of experience. He's got this much research under his belt and 18 books, and he says it's a placebo. Okay. Right? What works for you, use it. All right. So today, this is going to be an interesting one. BW, I think you'll like this. Skinner, I think you'll like this. Like I said before in the opening of the show, this is a client of mine. And when I say a client of mine, I've known him for a couple years. He originally came to me for a breakup, but every once in a while, he'll hit me up with an email. Sometimes he'll send in a story. We've done continue coaching. And he said this time he's back out on the market. He just had a breakup a little while ago. He's doing pretty well from it. And he's like, I want to try something different where I do a video and talk about my situation. So I haven't watched this fully, so you'll be watching it fully with me. I think with this one, I won't stop it too many times to say what I need to say. I'll let it ride for a little while. And basically, the topic that he started with was, I think this is a shit test. So he's back out there on the dating market. His channel is Sex with Gods, if you want to check it out. He's an interesting character. And let's get into it. So let's see here. I haven't done this, shared the screen for a while. I just want to make sure that.
Hey, what's up, Coach Mac? Hey, I got some advice I want to ask you. This is a really odd situation, but I think it's in the category of like being shit tested. I went out with this woman, absolutely gorgeous, drop dead, knockout gorgeous, like 10 plus, and I say 10 plus because she's beautiful, she's got a great body, and she's got a great attitude, and she's got a great sense of humor, personality, everything. We were messaging back and forth off of Bumble, which is a dating site, and then finally we decided to meet up, and we went Saturday night for coffee at Starbucks, right? And we're talking a little bit back and forth, and she told me that 9 months into a separation, that she's not divorced yet, but she's separated from her husband because the state of South Carolina doesn't officially declare divorce until it's been 1 year of separation, right? But she technically considers herself divorced, so she's off, dating other guys. I told her, I said, yeah, I'm recently single as well. She's like, well, how recently? I said, that like 2 weeks. She's like, oh wow, yeah, you're really recent. I said, yeah, but I'm not worried about it, And we start talking more and more, and I don't know what this one thing is called whenever women find intelligence like sexually appealing, but she's that. Was it sapiosexual or something like that, or whatever? I don't know what it's called. But anyway, she was finding my intelligence sexy, and she was telling me this. She's like, like every time you talk about stuff, you come off as really attractive. Your wittiness, your playfulness, your banter with me, just how we get along, is just really attractive. I'm like, all right, well, do you want to get out of here and go get something to eat? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So we went out to a barbecue restaurant where I know the owner really well. And we went there, and him and I are talking with her and stuff and everything. And he's talking with her, and we're back and forth. And I could just see her attraction level getting more and more and more and more and more and more. So we're joking, laughing, having a good time. It's just like it's effortless. It's like things are just clicking, 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 clicking. Things are going really well between us. And then we finished our meal, and we get ready to go back to my car. I'm like, all right, well, and I thought the date was over. She's like, well, she's holding my arm with her arm in my arm, like walking back to my car. I'm like, all right, well, I had a good time. She's like, yeah, can we sit in your car for a little bit and just talk? I'm like, yeah, I mean, the night's still young, so let's sit down and talk, right? So we're sitting in the car for maybe 5 minutes, and we start making out, right? And that's when she comes to me and she tells me, she's like, I really like you. I'm very attracted to you, but I don't want this to be just a straight physical thing. Like I want to build something off of, you know, like other qualities and then just having this be physical. I said, yeah, man, I completely understand. I completely understand where you're coming from, you know? And so she's pulling me back into her, making out with me more and more. Um, and we're like, while we're making out, we're joking and laughing and having a good time and stuff like that. And then finally she pops up and she's like, there's more room in my back seat because we're both in the front seat of my car. And my back seat of my car is all filled up with my business equipment and stuff like that. So I got no room in my back seat. So she's like, well, there's more room in my back seat of my car. I said, all right, yeah, we can do that, you know. So we get in her car and we start making out more and more. And there's not really that much room in her back seat because she's got a lot of junk in her back seat too. So I'm like, all right, I'm feeling things like I'm like, oh, feeling pain. And I'm like, all right, listen, there's more room on my couch at my apartment if you want. She's like, okay, yeah, let's go and do that. And then she's like, but wait, I don't want this to be just a straight physical thing. I said, all right. I mean, it doesn't have to be a physical thing if you don't want it to be. If you want to do this some other time, no pressure. We don't have to, go back to my apartment. We can do it some other time. She's like, no, 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 no. No, I want to. It's just that, like I don't know you and I'm just a little scared. I said, fine. Yeah, why don't we get to know each other a little bit better? And then some other time we'll go back. She's like, no. And then she pulls out the she pulls out some kind of like humor. She's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, commit. Okay, let's go. Right. I'm like, all right. So I get in my car. She gets in her car. She follows me back to my apartment. We get back in here. Within 30 seconds of walking out the door, she's all over me. She'll go into the couch. We're making out, and clothes start coming off, and things start getting hot and heavy and stuff and everything. And she says it again. She's like, I'm really attracted to you. I really like you. I find like everything about us is really clicking, and I want to build on that. And I want to make sure this isn't going to be just a straight physical thing. I said, we could stop if you want, and we could just not talk. She's like, no. And then she'd pull me again and pull me into her and, and kissing her and stuff and everything. And we're going through things like, I guess the kids would say, the second base, third base, almost to a home run state. We're like topless, but both of us. Um, a lot of petting and fondling and stuff and everything's going on. And then finally I get a blowjob, and to the point where I get my release. You know, um, and then we're just sitting here talking for a little bit, and then she's like, "All right, well, I really enjoyed spending time with you." Blah, blah, stuff like that. I said, "Yeah, I enjoyed spending time with you too." It was getting really late. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And so she's like, "Well, I'm tired. I'm gonna go home." I'm like, "Well, we were doing this. If you feel tired, you can spend the night because we already know each other like that way." She's like, "Maybe some other time, but I do got to get home because I got to take care of stuff at my house." I was like, "All right, that's fine. Some other time." She's like, "Okay, definitely." You know, and that was our joke all the time. We would always do like Rain Man going, "Definitely, definitely, definitely, definitely." We did that all the time. Um, but like lots of laughing, lots of getting along, just everything is just effortless, clicking, 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 clicking. And then she messages me the next day, and she's like, "Hey, I really enjoy spending time with you. I'd like to see you again." And so I messaged her. I said, "Well, then get your cute ass back over here to my apartment, and let's hang out and start having some more conversation and stuff. You could be more attracted to my intellect and stuff and everything." And we're laughing and back, through text, laughing back and forth. And then she starts saying, she's like, "Well, I got things I got to do. I got to clean the house. I got to take care of the animals." I said, "All right, yeah, fine. Some other time. We'll get together some other time." She's like, "No, but I really want to. I want to take care of some stuff." I said, "All right, well, just let me know." Um, so I'm gonna go finish the laundry here. I'm doing some stuff here at the apartment, and then just let me know when you want to come over. And I end up taking a nap. I was that tired. I ended up taking a nap. And I woke up and I seen text messages saying like, "Hey, I'm going to be in your area. I'm going through that area." Like she was just being in my orbit, basically. Like saying I'm going to be at this Costco, which is in your area. Um, you know,
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Sex with Gods. So what I was just going to say is that, let me pull this up because we're at the halfway point. The rest of the video, I don't really know what else he talked about. But the thing I was going to say, now you guys can hear me, I assume. Things are going really well. This is quite common when people meet on dating apps, which is probably half of people on dating sites now, right? That women are a little uncomfortable about, I don't really know you because of the dating app. And some women, I've had friends, female friends that have had situations that were shady, like this is one of those things where guys are like, oh, women exaggerate a little bit. They're at an uncomfortable place, even though I know Sex with Gods is a good dude, right? Like it's a little uncomfortable for them just to go straight into things off a dating site. And by the way, I think that's good. I think women should be aware because there's some creeps and some weirdos out there, right? That being said, this is common sometimes, especially with women 30 plus, 40 plus, I don't know her age, that are, they don't want to waste their time. And they don't want to, like, you hooked up with me 3 or 4 times and now you never called me again. That's a big deal. And she also seems to really like you from what you're saying. She finds you intelligent. She's all over you. She wants to go back to your place, but she doesn't want you to never talk to her again. And that's just projecting something that's happened to her in the past, right? Doesn't mean she's a bad person. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. She's had a few times where she's hooked up and the guy never called her again. Or she's hooked up and after 2 months, the guy's done with her and they just want to hook up every night. So what she's saying in kind of a smoke and mirrors here, and I'm sure Sex with Gods, who knows women well, obviously, is seeing this too. She just wants to confirm that you're there. But there's going to be some kind of twist here. I know there is, because it can't be going this smooth with you asking for my advice, because if it was this smooth, I don't get called. I don't get asked my opinion, right? Because everything's going great. You don't need my opinion. So I'm interested myself to see the second half of this. All right.
Let me know if you're not too busy. I can swing by. Well, what happened was this was 2 hours ago, and I didn't get the message. So I'm like, oh shit! I finally called her. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to get that. I was taking a nap. She's like, oh no, it's fine. It's fine. We're both the same age, and we're calling each other like grandpa and grandma and stuff like that. Like grandpa's gonna take his nap. Did you take your Metamucil? And I'm saying things like, yeah, and I gotta take my prune juice after my Metamucil. And we're going back and forth, joking on the phone. And she's like, all right, well, maybe tomorrow. And I said, yeah, definitely, maybe tomorrow. So she messages me. I get woken up by her text messages. She's like, I really want to see you again. I'm really having a good time. But stuff like that. She's telling me that she's cleaning her house and she's doing all this other stuff. And that if I'm not too busy, maybe she can make me dinner. I come over her house. I said, well, I'll tell you what. Since you invited me to your place yesterday, and I was too tired to come over, and you're making me dinner tonight, then yeah, I'll come over. She's like, great. And like, what time? I said, I'm like around 6. She's like, fine, perfect. So I get there and, she's making me dinner. We had dinner. Nothing was physical for like the first couple hours. It was just straight, just talking and stuff and everything. And then we went to the beach. We had a walk on the beach, and she's sitting there, hanging onto my arm, like how women put their head on your shoulder and stuff and everything, and when they're like cuddling with you and stuff while you're walking. We're doing that and taking a long walk on the beach, and she's like, oh, well, it's starting to get dark. Why don't we head back? And I'm like, all right, sure, So we head back. We took our car. We go back, and I'm thinking that the date's over. I'm like, all right, great. Like things aren't going to get physical. I was like, all right, well, I had a good time. She's like, well, aren't you coming in? I said, yeah, I can come in. We had dinner. I might as well have dessert. So we're joking. She's laughing about that. She's like, maybe. I'm like, all right. So then we go inside and we start making out again, like the same thing. And she's really hot and heavy into it again, like she was before. Clothes start coming off, and then her phone rings, and it's her daughter. And she's like, hey, mom, I'm close enough I could hear her daughter on the phone. She's like, hey, mom, what are you doing? Her response was, she's like, I'm with that guy right now, kissing him. I'm like, whoa, okay, and she saw my reaction. I'm like, whoa, all right. And then, she's talking to her. She's like, all right, for like 5 minutes and stuff like that. She's like, yeah, he's cool. He's cool. Everything's fine. I really like him. He's not a serial killer, blah, blah. She's laughing with her daughter on the phone and everything. I'm like, yeah. So she gets the phone and she's like, me and my daughter have a close relationship. Like, I'm like, yeah, I could see that. You're telling your daughter that you're kissing me on the couch. She's like, yeah, we're just that close. I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. So she's like, but that they're on their way home now. She's bringing her boyfriend. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. So her daughter and her boyfriend, they're 25, 27 years old. They're adults. So they come home and we're, talking back and forth, and we're all like her daughter, her boyfriend, we're all just, going back and forth, joking and laughing, having a good time. This is going on for maybe like 45 minutes. We're joking. And I can feel her tugging on my shirt. She's like, okay, well, you guys enjoy. We're gonna go upstairs. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I'm like, I'm a guest in her house. I got to follow her where she wants me to go. And then we're all joking about that. We go upstairs, and she says the same thing again. She's like, I really like you, and I know you're in my bedroom, but I really don't want things to get physical, or I really don't want things to be only physical. I want to, continue to be attracted to you, build on that, with stuff like that. I said, that's completely fine. Like, if you want me to go, I can go. She's like, no, stay. I want you to stay. I'm not saying I don't want things to be physical. I'm saying I don't want things only to be physical. I said, all right, well, And then she starts grabbing me and starts kissing me and stuff and everything and pulling me down on the bed. And long story short, she goes in the bathroom and she comes out in only her panties. She's like, do you like what you see? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. And I still got my jeans on. We were both topless, like we were on the couch before, but I still got my jeans and everything on. And so she gets on the bed, she pulls me on top of her, and she starts kissing me. She's like, "Why don't you take your pants off too?" And I'm like, "All right, yeah." So take the pants off, but my underwear is still on, just like her panties are still on. And then she reaches into my underwear, starts grabbing my cock and stroking it. And then I pull my underwear off, and she's like, "Okay, good." Right? And she starts taking my cock and rubbing it against the outside of her panties where her clitoris is at. And then, like, I'm not paying attention. Then I feel her insert me into her. I'm like, whoa, okay, what's going on? I think you want to. I thought you didn't want this only to be physical. She's like, just go with it, just go with it, And then, it's like an hour of sex. We're having sex. She's just really this bond connecting sex. And then I get a blowjob again because she didn't want me to come inside her. I'm like, that's fine, you know. And here, it's like 1:45, almost 2 in the morning. She's like, well, I have to get up early tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, I have to get up early tomorrow too. She's like, I really enjoy spending time with you. I'm really liking this a lot. Blah, blah, stuff like that. I said, yeah, of course. And then I'm getting ready to go on, get my clothes on. She's like, hey, please text me when you get home so I know you got home safe. I don't have to worry about you. And I said, yeah, of course. So I texted her when I got back home, and I said, hey, I'm home safe. I really enjoy spending time with you. I think this is awesome. I think this is amazing. I never laughed with anybody like this before, like so effortlessly. And she's telling me, she's like, well, you're definitely on my list of people that I have a lot in common with and things that I really enjoy with this. And I really this easy for me to connect with somebody. So I really enjoy this with you. I'm like, of course. Um, then the next morning, this is when things got really fucking weird. And this is when I think it was almost a shit test. She messaged me first thing, like it was like around 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. She messages me and she goes, it's kind of like a cold message. It was like morning, and then dot, dot, dot. She's like, there was a guy that I was dating a month ago, and we were only dating a month, and he wouldn't commit. So I broke it off. And he just contacted me this morning and wanted to be exclusive with me. So I want to give that a try. So we met up we met up for brunch, and we were talking and blah, 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 stuff like that. I think you're a great guy. I think you're awesome. I really want to know that you found somebody who's, who you're really looking for, blah, blah, stuff like that. And I messaged back and I said, I'm sorry. Well, if things don't work out, then give me a call, you know? And now I said, um, my message was only after a month of dating, you're committing. I said, Okay, well, if things don't work out, then give me a call, right?
All right. So I don't know the last 3 minutes, but first and foremost, thanks for this story. I didn't know it was this graphic, but that's how you get people's attention these days. And so casual too about everything, right? So obviously, this is what happens on dating apps a lot of times. I'm not anti dating apps. I'm just saying don't take it personal. It's part of what you do when you fish in these grounds. Okay. So I like to use fishing as a metaphor to compare. Certain areas are going to have rougher seas or certain things that you have to overcome. Dating apps are like this. If she's attractive, which I'm assuming she is, you said she was a 10 plus plus. If she gets down and gets down well in the bedroom, that's another plus for whoever else she's dating, right? Now, I don't know her age, but I'm just going to assume 35 plus. She's got a 25-year-old kid. So, you know, at least 35, right? At least 35, maybe 40. Most women in that age bracket, they do want a commitment. Not all, not all. She's wanted that from Jump Street with you. She's obviously experienced a few times where someone she quote unquote really liked, didn't want to commit. Now, one thing I'm saying that's really positive about this situation, she's been honest. So she could have easily kept you on the sidelines as the backup quarterback. And even this guy just committed today, but let me keep this new guy, this new contender on the field. And in case this guy that's saying he's going to commit, maybe I can just string this guy along. She didn't do that. So she gets points for just telling you up front, hey, look, this guy called me this morning. I want to tell you the truth, because she's been pressing you about commitment, right? Now, to me, you handled it really well. You just went with it like, yeah, okay. Yeah, like it won't only be that. And really, when you go into dating, it's a discovery mission. When you get women like this, or even men, it's just not as common for men to press for commitment, but there are men like this. You can agree, yeah, I'm not that kind of guy, but you also just have to still be in the present moment that I'm not getting down on bended knee or going to say that we're going to be together after dating a couple times or just because we hook up and sleep together. But yeah, I'll tell you, I'm not the kind of guy that takes that for granted. What happens is that the red flag in this is the woman's immediately filtering and trying to control the situation right before you get intimate, right? Before you get intimate, and this has happened in my own dating life. Oh, before we get, like, I don't want this just to be a hookup. It's like, okay, like right before you're entering the promised land, you're like, hey, yeah, okay. But as the guy, and I'm sure he feels the same way, you're not also saying like, yeah, you're going to be my girlfriend for the next 2 years. And, it's going 0 to 100. I understand where the woman's coming from because she wants to reconfirm. And women that can be a little bit controlling. And the ironic thing about women like this, if they're like this from the get-go, they're wounded. Something's happened. So even when they do get the commitment or the guy, let's say that, to me, it's like one more date, one more date, one more date, right? Someone that wants to know if it's going to be official after 2 or 3 dates, no matter what the attraction is, they're a little wounded, they're a little off, because really it's going to take time for both of you to decide, is this a long-term option? And being okay with the fact that what it seems like she's fighting here, and this is common. I met you on a dating app. I'm really attracted to you. Everything's going right, but I'm waiting for the other foot to drop here and you to never call me again because that's what's happened to me in the past. And I'm not that kind of girl. But the actions of like getting down in the back of a car, it's conflicting her values, which has nothing to do with you. And you've handled it really well because you're just going with the flow. You're going with it rather than against it. And like I said, she's telling you the truth. Hey, I'm talking to this guy. So let's watch the last 3 minutes and see where it goes.
And so, I didn't hear anything back from her, and which was okay. Like, it was only 2 days. I'm like, all right, whatever. you know. And then I'm going around. And I realized that my wallet is gone. I don't know where my wallet's at. I'm just going around the apartment trying to find it. Excuse me. And I'm going around the apartment trying to find my wallet. Finally, I called her. I said, and she answered the phone. I'm like, and the way she answered the phone, she was still flirty and playful. And she's like, hey, Slugger, how's it going? I'm like, good. You know, I'm like, hey, did I leave my wallet there? She's like, yeah, you did. It's right here on the bedroom floor. I said, well, can I come and get it? She's like, yeah, I got to go out though, because I got to get ready for this date tonight. I said, okay, well, that's fine. So I rode my bike out, met her, and she had my wallet and she gave it to me, but she's still being flirty with me, like very flirtatious and stuff and everything, you know. She's like, well, here you go. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like, you really saved the day. She's like, I know. It was all my fault that you lost your wallet. I said, yeah, it was all your fault. She's like, well, how about 50-50? How about we do 50-50? And she's like, pinky on it? I'm like, okay, yeah, pinky on it, you know? And I looked at her. I said, oh, by the way, when things don't work out with this guy, give me a call. She's like, when things don't work out. Oh, okay. You know, like, you know, she's being playful and bantering back and forth and witty with that, you know? And I said, okay, still think you're beautiful. Still got nothing but love for you, but I got to go. Thanks for the wallet. And I took off my bike and took off. You know, but as I was saying that, I could see her look on her face, like she was smiling and being really flirtatious with the smile and stuff and everything. And she's like almost like my words were like, gotcha, bitch. You know, it's a type thing. But what the hell do you think it was about? Like, things were going so great. And I didn't initiate really much of the contact at all. I didn't initiate much of really any of the physical stuff. It was all her. She was into it. She kept pulling me into her. She'd tell me how much she liked me, how much she was attracted to me. And then just out of the blue, like that, right? But then still being flirty and playful. My thing I'm thinking about, it was like a shit test. If there even is a guy that she was, you know, whatever. She wanted to see if I was still going to be centered, if I was going to be off center, if I was still going to be calm and collected, because she had this vision of me, this idea of me that I'm pretty calm, cool, and collected. And I'm not going to get easily rattled. And, you know, I didn't get easily rattled, you know, my responses and stuff like that. But then I'm thinking, like, what if there's another guy, right? Her message was that she met him for brunch, that they're only dating, you know, for a month, and he wouldn't commit to her. That's why she broke it off. But now he wants to come back to her. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, yeah, I think I know what's going on here. That like he was dating all these other women, and that she was just second fiddle, or he was trying to get back together with an ex.
All right, I just got to jump in on this part. So I don't know if this would qualify as a shit test. I just think, just being blatant, she spent a month with this guy. She likes him better. Okay. She also, and this is where sex with gods isn't wrong, and this is where you don't know, right? This is an opinion-based discussion. I'm going to be more objective because my feelings aren't involved. Okay. So if you want my point of view, if I was in your shoes, which would be totally different because my perceptions and the way I interpret things are different and the way I play things are different, I would just take it as, cool, we hooked up, you told me the truth, you're talking to someone else, you got a history with this guy, you like him. I wouldn't even flirt after the fact. It's a little fishy that she didn't tell you. Like, to me, a good person, let alone a good woman, if my wallet's left in your house, if my wallet's left at your house on the floor, you should call me immediately. I mean, isn't that common sense for human beings? So that's just a little weird part of the story, that when you called her about that. Now, what you have to realize when you're going through your ideas of what she did or what she's doing, what I see in you, I see in me. So unconsciously, subconsciously, the things that you think she's doing or doing, they're things that you might do. Okay. Now, people have trouble with that at first. Doesn't mean you're a bad person, but the way you're interpreting, well, I think she might have been doing this, or to me, bottom line, and this is harsh, she likes the other guy better. Okay. If she liked you better, she'd go out with you again. Now, her flirting with you and getting down with you the first night, she's attracted to you. 100%. She's attracted to you. Whether it's the intelligence, the physical, whatever. She hooked up with you that night, and you didn't do anything to hurt that. Now, I don't think this is a premeditated shit test. I think there really is another guy there. That's just the way I perceive it. I don't think she would concoct a story like this, because if the other guy wasn't there, why wouldn't she go out with you again? You haven't done anything wrong, and you guys had great intimacy, according to you. She introduced you to her daughter, which I don't know if she does that with everyone, right? So those things line up. This other guy that left the scene, quote unquote, maybe rejected her, wasn't ready for commitment, and then he comes back into the picture just at the right time. She likes him better. She's got more of a history with him. Also, she was rejected by him, which a lot of times, sometimes rejection breeds what? Obsession. So what she's doing with you when she's being flirty with you right now, she's still attracted to you, and she still looks at you as an option because you're like, hey, when it doesn't work out with this guy, just call me up, which is totally fine. That's your approach. It wouldn't have been my approach. My approach would have been like, no problem. Can I get my wallet? This, that. I wouldn't be angry. And you could flirt with her a little bit here and there, but she just chose someone else. Cool, man. Get back on the dating app and meet another one. And that's okay. And maybe she comes back to you. You know, maybe she comes back if this doesn't work out in this commitment. She's obviously looking for a commitment, and her attraction's still high for you. So you don't really have to do anything. This is where it gets into overthinking, because you meet someone on a dating app. It's rose petals and wine glasses. It's fucking fireworks. I've heard the stories before. It's like, what happened? A lot of women on these dating apps have more options. They have more fishing holes. They have more texts coming in. It doesn't mean they're a hoe or they're for the streets. It's just what it is. Some women that I know, they're like, I don't like going on the dating apps because they have to sift through so much shit. Right? Hence the reason why she's like, immediately she's attracted to you. She's all into you, but she's questioning, like, is this going to be she met you on a dating app. Think about, you're old enough to know, I'm old enough to remember when there wasn't dating apps or the internet. What was the difference then? Like, you still had pickup artists and players, but the difference would be, you usually, in my life experience, you met someone through work, through school, through friends, or, you know, at a local restaurant or a coffee shop that you frequented. What's the difference there? Even though you haven't dated yet, you kind of know them. You have a little bit of a feeling. So think about it this way. If you've lived in a neighborhood long enough, okay, I've moved around a few times in my life, but I lived in the same neighborhood for 19 years or 18 years of my life. We never moved when I was a kid, so I'm lucky in that aspect. There were neighbors that weren't close friends, or, you know, we hung out on the holidays or anything, but I trusted them. But I was close to them because over those years and years and years, I knew that their behavior wasn't threatening to me. Now I'm getting a little deeper. Now think about this. You go to a coffee shop every 5 days a week because it's near your work, and you start to get a crush on the girl that works at the coffee shop. That's different than a dating app, because each interaction with her, you're interacting a little bit more, and you're getting to know she's not a drug addict. She's not crazy. She doesn't, you know, there's not 5 guys waiting for her at the door. You start to subliminally put together a profile on her. With dating apps, you have nothing. You have nothing. What you have is someone on the other end that's single, ready to mingle, and you just don't know. And so you're trying to figure out a lot in 24 hours, let alone if this person's a psycho. Now, this is not necessarily just a shit test. This just happens because of dating apps, right? And if a woman or a man, by the way, if you are extremely attractive, you get more action on a dating app because it's picture-based. Sorry, that's what it is, okay? Now, the profile, people don't like to read profiles anymore. It's a waste of time. It's someone's saying right now in the comments, well, I read the profiles. It doesn't matter as much as the picture, because if you read a really good profile, right, and the picture was ugly to you, you wouldn't contact them. So the base of this is, it's a dating app thing. You guys had a great hookup. Everything went well. You just don't know her that well, and she doesn't know you that well. And she had someone on the sideline she was more interested in that came into the picture. One thing I give her a lot of credit for not playing it, she just told you the truth. Just told you the truth. And then her flirting at the end, she's still attracted to you. She would sleep with you again if this other guy doesn't work out. But guess what? You're not first in line. That doesn't mean that you made the wrong move. And this is what I'm coming across a lot. I'm not saying this about you, Sex with Gods, specifically. There's so much information on YouTube about making the right move and saying the right thing that people think, oh, I did something wrong here. No. You met her on a dating app. She had someone in line that she's more interested in. She has a larger history with. And she would rather commit to them. She has a month with them. She'd rather, and she basically told you, I want to see where this goes. And then you just reassured her, like, no problem, I'll be there. Right? And that's cool. Get back on the dating app. And this is how dating apps work. There was a guy, I talked about this before. Go with the dating app protocol. The fact that, like meet in Starbucks every time, go out to dinner, see how things go. I get this all the time, though. Where guys like, I don't get it. What did I do? You didn't do anything wrong. It's just a product of dating on dating apps. It's more casual with less foundation. Does that make it? And so for you, you didn't have 2 or 3 other options like she does, or even one that you're mirroring off her or comparing her to. So for example, let's flip the tables on this, right? Let's get away from the shit test idea. And let's just say that you've been on dating apps for the last 6 months, right? Because you just broke up 2 weeks ago. So you haven't been on dating apps. You don't have a big lineup or a bunch of women you're talking to. Let's say you're 6 months into being single and you got maybe 3 different women you're kind of talking to that you're dating. You guys are seeing each other. You're not committing to anyone, but you got 3. And there's one out of the 3 that you're like, that would be my girlfriend. And you've been seeing her for 2 or 3 months. The other one you saw for 2 weeks, and the other one you just met this week, but she's really cute. You're going to pick the one you know the longest for a long-term relationship, probably, if that's what you're looking for. Now, she's just disclosed to you that she's hot and heavy for commitment. Now, you didn't do anything wrong, but there's no way you're going to commit on a day or a night, right? She's going to go with the person that she's been with a month, so it's not personal. Now, if this doesn't work out, you guys can start dating again. Cool. And nothing you did during the dating process was like needy or weak. You went with it. You were like, oh, cool, let's go here, let's go there, right? Now just leave it alone. And like I say a lot of times, handling rejection clean without over texting or, things don't work out. You were the best date I ever had. And this is not what you said, but I've had guys say this. Well, I sent her flowers. I did this and I told her that. It's like, you don't need to do all that. Just if you accept, hey, you're not interested right now, it's a relief to the woman because then she doesn't feel fucking guilty. It's like if you get emotional or you make it heavy, like, oh, I thought we had a really good connection. I guess we didn't. That's passive aggressive. It's like guilt ridden. And what guys lose track of, you've had times in your life where you've had better options and you had to reject one and it didn't feel good or you just stopped calling them. A lot of times what I would give her credit for, a lot of times what I see in these situations, the woman just disappears. The woman just disappears. She didn't even give you that call. She didn't even give you that call to tell you that, hey, I'm going to go with this other guy that I'm committed to. So I think that this is just a common theme for dating apps because like I've said before, it's like you're dating, but you got a fishing line in the water at all times. Think about that. Like at all times, you got a fishing line in the water. Internet is a great example. Like if you're, if you want to book a live coaching session with myself, I have a website that you can book that 24 hours. I got a fishing line in the water all the time. Dating apps, I got a fishing line in the water all the time if I was on a dating app. What that does is someone's, especially with hypergamy in women, oh, this might be a good option. Oh, this might be a good option. Right? And so I think sometimes you can do everything right, handle it well, and it doesn't work out. Now, handling the rejection really clean and neat, like you did too, like you're like, all right, flirty, let me get my wallet. Don't call her again. Don't call her again. Don't overthink. I think she's with this other guy. Who cares? She's with another dude. She's with someone else. Let me get back on the dating app. Let me go out with other women. Let me embrace being single. But a lot of people have to go through that. And then they get a connection that they think was like a deep connection. I've had this many times. I'm thinking about this one guy. It's about a year and a half ago. And he emergency called me. He's like, dude, I need to talk to you. I need to talk. I went out with this chick. Like, dude, bro. He's a bro type guy. Bro, dude. Like, I fucking went out on 3 dates. You know, like, we were in the hot tub together. She told me how much she liked me, like the connection. He's just going on and on. It's like the best date he's had in like a year and a half. And he's like, bro. And then she just like said, you know, like, I don't think it's going to work out. And I've been talking to someone else and I just want to be honest about that. And I'm going to talk to them officially. And he was just like, he didn't get it because what he can't see is how much deeper the connection or attraction is to the other guy. It wasn't anything he did wrong. The other guy just got in there first and she likes him better, right? And if you look at your own life, if you had 3 or 4 options, you're going to have to pick one if you wanted the commitment, right? Moral of the story, don't take it personal. I think I put that on the shit test thing. And don't overthink it. Don't take it personally and don't make assumptions, right? Attraction is still there. And if attraction's still there, there's always a chance. Someone was asking me that yesterday. That's a coaching client of mine. He's like, how did you know that she was probably going to come back? I go, because when you broke up, you guys kissed and she said how much she loves you and how she's still attracted to you. Breakups that usually don't come back is the person just lost all attraction, physical and mental. And physical attraction gets lost because of neediness. Physical attraction gets lost because people let themselves go. Physical attraction gets lost for a variety of reasons. Do you think she's another 0 to 100 chick? No. I think that you guys had a good date. She was highly attracted to you. If she's a 10 plus 10, then she's got options, bro. Whenever you date women, if that's, and I'm just going to say, and people in the comments, would a 10 really be on a dating app though? Yeah. But here's the thing, right? What's a 10 to Sex with Gods? What's a 10 to Ben W? Everyone's different. Okay. So I can go on a dating app and we can line up 100 dudes and we can go through pictures on a dating app. And some dude's going to be like 10. Oh, she's smoking. She's one of my clients. She's a total smoke show. Okay. And I can look at it and go, not really. Everyone's attracted to different things and they think they're the only ones. Her going 0 to 100, I don't think so. I think she was attracted to you. She was nervous because she was attracted to you because she wants to be in a committed relationship and she's probably been burned before. Right? And that's something that's common. So her wanting to be like, oh, you know, and then this guy coming into the picture when he did. I don't think she was trying to lock you down after 2 dates. I think she was revealing her inner talk. What do I mean by that? That's an inner talk that maybe a lot of women have that maybe they don't speak up and say something. I'm going to guess she's in her late 30s, early 40s if she's got a 25-year-old and she's just had a place in her life. Women after like 35 generally want a committed relationship. Not all. And when they want that and they've been burned by a guy that they're attracted to but just like flew the coop or never called them again, they want to get out in front of that. And they want to make sure, especially if she's really attracted to you, she might assume that you're a player. That you move after you hook up. Okay. So there's a lot of women like that. I couldn't have another one. I just got up. No, I don't think this is a case where she's like that. I think she was highly attracted. She wants to know if you're committed. When people are highly attracted to someone, they're nervous because there's a part of them that's like, why would this person want to be with me? Did he say if she asked her when she last broke up? I don't think so. Let me just get to I don't think I finished the video. There's a few seconds left. Let's see.
trying to make things work out with his ex, and that when the things didn't work out after a month, he calls her back because she's available. He's like, hey, I want to try to make things work out. That's why I said to her, I said, when things don't work out, give me a call. And that's why, it kind of alluded to the fact that like she kind of knew that I knew what was going on, because that's why like she had that like trying to hold back the smile type thing. She's like, type stuff. So, but what are your thoughts, man? I would like to know. All right. All right. Bye. Take care. Bye.
All right. First and foremost, thanks for being vulnerable and sharing that video and sharing your situation, right? Because it's a little bit vulnerable. People out there are like, oh, I would have done this. Oh, you didn't do that. It's like, whatever, man. You're trying to get some. One thing I know about you, you're smart, but you're trying to figure it out. And at this point, just be like, we hooked up. Good. You're talking to someone else. All right. So what you've gotten from her that's way better than the situation where someone just stops calling you, leaves you on red, which literally there's people that go through anxiety attacks. They left me on red. They left me on red. They haven't called me. Like, she told you in the morning. I don't think it was premeditated or she was trying to play you, right? And the way you left it, like, hey, if it doesn't work out, or if it doesn't, and you're being you're a joker. You like to joke around. You have that sense of humor. So at the end, you were like, when it doesn't work out, that's who you are. So that was authentic to you. So that's cool. I just leave it alone. It's fine. Right? Like, this is what it is. This guy that called in a while ago that I keep referencing, he was in New York, that was on dating apps, and he said that he would meet on what he did is he just did a protocol for dating apps. So he just was like, every time I meet someone, for you, it could be Starbucks, because it's like, he just leaned into the fact that dating apps, you're filtering like for gold flakes on a river. Have you ever panned for gold? Probably not a lot of people have. That's my California roots here. It's like these little flakes of gold, and you got to go through all the rocks and all the silt. That's how dating apps are for both sides. For both sides. And there's a portion of people on there, men and women, by the way, that are just getting off, that are just like, oh, this is great. I'm just going to hook up. I'm just going to hook up and have a good time. And that can come at any time for people. There could be people on there like, I've been in a relationship for 15 years and I just want to go out and bang. And the other person on the other end that they're just out there to bang is looking for a monogamous long-term relationship and gets hurt. Okay? So in the past, the person that just wanted to bang would be at certain nightclubs and bars and stuff like that. Now they're on a dating app camouflaged with everyone else. And so this is what happens. Then people have one bad experience on a dating app, and it's like, all the people on dating apps are like this. And so the fact that you hooked up, she was attracted, you cash. I love when you told the story too. Then I got a blowjob. And then you continue on. So then I got a blowjob. Okay. That's a win for you. You know, you guys had a great moment. You shared some good times. You didn't make a fool out of yourself. You didn't over the top submit. I don't think she brought up this other guy to lock you down. I think she had this other option, see where it goes. And if she comes back, she comes back. Right. And if she's a 10, she's got other options. I was just talking to someone about this recently. If you're going to date 10s or people that are highly attractive, men or women out there, you're going to have more competition. Does it mean you need to be more insecure? No. They're used. When you're dealing with someone that's attractive, they're used to getting fawned over. They're used to getting followed. They're used to getting high levels of attention. They're used to having to reject people. So when they reject you or tell you that, it's not going to work, and you could just be like, cool, no problem. That's attractive. That differentiates you. And then down the road, 3 months, 6 months, they're going to be calling you. And once they call on you, honestly, I consider myself a 10 too. Good. Anytime I have a client that's like, I'm pretty good looking, I don't mean it. Good. Toot your own horn. Good. I'm happy for you. Good. Put it to the test. Get back out there, put your profile back up. You know, this experience that you just had. And then if she calls you up in a month, maybe you have multiple women that you have to choose from. And this is what happens. She's been on the dating app longer than you. You've only been on 2 weeks, right? So, when you, and this is what happens with guys, they'll be unsure about this. Like, wow, these dating apps, these women, they just run through all these guys. It's like, well, if you had the opportunity, if you're maximizing your dating potential, and if you're a 10, which I'm not going to question, go for you. What you are, who you believe yourself to be, right? So if you're that, continue to be on the dating apps, and then when she comes back, you're like, actually, I got a few women I'm talking to right now. I don't know if I can commit to you, but we can continue to date and have a good time if that works for you. Now you're putting her in your frame rather than, yeah. But by the way, that story you just told me, you handled it beautifully. You never submitted. You never were like, oh, yeah, we got to get together. You're like, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm not that kind of guy. Personality-wise, 10, I meant. Okay, no, I don't think you meant it that way. You're proud of the way you look, and good for you. Good for you. People that are good looking, they work at it and they value it. Right? They value it. It's the same reason if you think about it. Everyone's gone to school with some person, and I say this affectionately, that's a nerd, a dork, not one of the cool kids, maybe, didn't dress very cool. And then you run into them years later, right? So you went to elementary or middle school with them. And like I said, they're a dork or a nerd or, not very cool. And they're like 28 now. And you're like, oh my God, like you grew up. Even when you'd meet someone from high school, they would look different from elementary school. Right? Right? Why is that? Is it because they're really good looking? No, when they got older, they just went, all right, I've been dealing with this shit for a long time where I'm not the cool kid or I'm a dork, and I'm at a point in my life where I want to be more attractive because I value it and I want to meet more opposite sex or whatever it is. Some people same sex, right? Whatever it is. And then what do? I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to change my style. I'm going to go get a nice haircut. Whatever. It's just your focus. And if you focus on that, and the ironic thing is, the hard thing is when you get to the psychology, is someone can change all that and look better. And you run into them and you're like, damn, you look great, hon. How have you been? And they feel like they're still that 15-year-old dork inside. And they're like, oh no, I don't look that great. Oh. And you look at, especially guys that go to the gym. I've noticed this. It's like, fuck, man, you look, like you've been working out and stuff. Like, da-da-da. Oh no, man, I'm still trying to hit 315. I haven't hit 315 yet. And I got these small wrists, and I got this. And you're just like, take the compliment. If you really want to measure when someone's in a good place in their life, when you give them a compliment, whether it's a big compliment or a small compliment, they just say thank you. They don't go into an explanation why it's not true. Because when someone gives you a genuine compliment and you say thank you, now you're congruent. Now you're in rapport. Well, when people do that, they're showing their cards that they're like, and the thing that's crazy about that, people that are like workout junkies or, like, I don't want a 6-pack. I want an 8-pack. And I want to lift 500 pounds and I want to do this. It's like, great. What are you trying to overcome? You already got the body. You got a top 10% body in the world right now, but you need to keep going. I'm not talking down about those people. I'm saying they just haven't got to the point where they're like, what am I doing this for? I look good already. Why am I, when I get a compliment, batting it down? Right? It's like, if sexual guys is like, dude, I'm a 10. I'm not going to be like, oh, you're getting a little bit of 2. Good for you. Who am I to say who's a 10 or not? And by the way, I like women, right? So how am I going to give you a 1 to 10? And by the way, anyone that does a 1 to 10, and I do it, it just gives you, your 10 could be someone else's 7. So why not consider yourself a 10? Good for you. Good for you. No problem with it. And if you're like that, then bet on yourself. Personality-wise, I'm a 10. Good. Good. Unfortunately, not everyone's going to agree with you, but that's okay. And that's when you get to that point in your life, you're like, all right, you don't agree or something like that? Fine. Fine. I think people get lost though, like I said, when we going back to the story, there's a lot of value when someone rejects you, but they're telling you the truth. There's a lot of people that are in bad situations where they got kept on the sideline because they were never told the truth. And then they get upset. Wow, this person told me they're talking to someone else, and I thought we had a great date. I'm not just talking about you, Sex with Gods. This is other clients of mine. It's like, well, they told you the truth. And if you were dating enough and putting yourself out there enough, you might have the same problem. Because everyone that's been rejected has had to reject someone else. Think about that. I've always put that on people when they're like, oh my God, like they did. Have you ever rejected someone? It's not easy. All the ones that didn't agree with me are locked in my basement. Just kidding. That was a quick just kidding, right? Every joke's half true. Be careful, my friend. Percy Blue describing me right now. Life's a marathon. It's not a race. That's a really good analogy. And sometimes people get involved in like, oh, when I was a virgin until I was 28. It's like, okay, so what? You're 32 now and you've hooked up with some woman. Good for you. No one cares that much. No one's keeping score. And a lot of times people think that other people think and care about them way more than they do. You care about your friends and family, but really, I mean, one of the shows I just watched, I know it's been out in a long time on Netflix, and I took a break from Netflix because the stuff that was being shown was monotonous, similar narratives, and just not good movie making or shows, right? This is so ironic that Percy Blue just said this name. This is so ironic. This is a synchronicity on the air. The show I was going to mention is called The Crown, about the royal family, Prince Charles, Princess Diane, Camille. That's so random because it's not a common name. What I was going to say about that show, The Crown, which is about Queen Elizabeth, it's 5 seasons. I don't know what's true or what's not true. But in the series, I mean, you think about these people being prestigious, rich, luxurious, right? They have this great life. And I remember as a kid, them always being in the tabloids, like the Enquirer would be, you're in the supermarket with your mom and the Enquirer has like Princess Diana. Their whole life was worrying about what people think and being a certain image to everyone. What a shitty way to live. And all of them ended up fucked up. I mean, if you guys ever see that series, you're like, I wouldn't want to be in that royal family. Even though they got Bentleys, they got the royal palace, they get to go to all these places. Really, they're really lonely and don't have genuine relationships with everyone. And they're an act. They're acting. So when you get into, general human interactions and dating, there's going to be rejection if people are going to be honest. And the better looking, better value, the big thing is high value man, high value women. The higher the value, the more competition there is, and they're more likely that someone's going to go, well, I'm going to go with this option, whether it's good for them or not. whether it's good for them or not. Don't ever take it fucking personal. Don't ever take it personal. Like they're better than you, or that you're not good enough for them, or you didn't say the right line, or you didn't pass the shit test. And that's where I was talking about earlier in the show, cat pawing. To me, cat pawing is something different. To get and cat pawing is not something I learned from a book. I know Corey Wayne uses men or women are cats and men are dogs. But what I mean by cat pawing is they're playing with you. Men will do this too, but women will do it a lot. They do it for sport, for fun. And Rye Flint, you're probably laughing right now. If you don't do it, you might have a friend or two. Especially women that are at a good place in their life where they're, and here's the thing. If they're in an environment where they get a lot of attention and they look good, right? A woman in that situation, I get it. Because there's some women, they were dorks, or they didn't get a lot of attention when they were young for whatever reason, the way they were raised, and then they break out of that shell when they're 27. I've had clients that are like 33. They've had trauma when they were young, and they thought they were this unattractive woman. They thought, they had these jaded views of relationships, and then at 33, like they're a knockout. They're beautiful, right? They're beautiful. And they're just realizing that, man, men are attracted to me. And sometimes they want to play. They want to play with them. Like they know, I've had clients before like this. They know they're not that interested in the guy and the guy's all over them and they like to keep them around. Sometimes they call this orbiting. But the cat pawing I like better because the guy thinks the cat pawing is interest. But the cat pawing is really, I'm just playing with him. This is fun. Right? This is fun. When you think about cats, they play with the bird before they kill it. Kind of a bad analogy, but you know what I mean, right? They play with, it's fun. And guys that are in those situations, am I making the right move? No, there is no right move for cat pawing. It's called escape. Get away from them. Find a new cat. And that's where people get locked in on the YouTube and the internet. And all right, let me find the secret fucking formula that's going to be the right line at the right time to get this woman. Sometimes she's just not interested. Sometimes she just thinks, oh, you look like my uncle that I never liked. There's all kinds of things. I have a friend who does that. She's horrible with dudes that are her pawns. See? And she's your friend. She probably doesn't even think she's doing it too. And a lot of women that do that in the past, not all, there's a couple reasons for that. In the past, they never got so much attention. So they just enjoy the attention. Right? It's just like when people get famous. They've never had so many options. Now, men have this happen when they're ball players or they're movie stars. Are they ever in a marriage for the rest of their life? Have you ever looked up a movie star like Clint Eastwood, who's got 7 kids from 4 different women? He's like 92. It's amazing. The guy's a fucking sire. Right? Did you think Clint Eastwood's going to be married till death do us part with his notoriety? With his, resources? So a woman in an arena where she can be attractive. And here's another thing about that is there's some women in workplaces. Let's say a woman works at a law firm that's predominantly men, and not all law firms are, right? And she's the secretary, and she's, I don't know, cute, but she's voluptuous. That's enough for guys. If there's 15 guys that work there and there's only 2 women that work there and the other woman's, not attractive, we'll just leave it at that, and she's the only show in town, it's water in the desert. Out of those 15 dudes, 10 of them, even the ones that are married, right? They're going to be trying to flirt with her. They're going to be making clever lines. They're going to be jerking off to her at night without her knowing, because that's the only show in town at the workplace. And the woman starts to go, oh, yeah, they like that attention. They like that attention. They're not doing anything wrong or illegal, right? And that's when you got to take inventory of your environments. Okay. I've talked about this before in dating, demographics and environments. If you're really upset with who you're meeting, where do you live? Where do you frequent? Where do you hang out? Get control of that, because that's controlling who you meet. Dating apps is a whole nother ball game. That's a different thing. I hear a lot of people, oh, I hate dating apps. Okay. Well, then the alternative is control your environments a little bit better of where you're meeting women. She admits, she says she was a big girl, young and not hot at all. Now I've been doing this a while. I was dead on, right, Rita Rose? And like I said, she's making up for lost time. Same things for dudes that hit the gym hard. A lot of them were weaklings when they were young or fat or overweight. They're making up for lost time. It's hard to trust men when you see how most men in relationships behave towards other women. Makes me bitter. Well, you got to unravel whatever story or narrative that supports that in your own life, because that's not 100% true, right, Flint? Does that make sense? So it's hard to trust men when you see how most men in relationships behave towards other women. So specifically meaning that men in relationships, monogamous relationships, where they're officially with a girlfriend or wife, you're saying how do they behave towards other women? Flirtatious? Open? And by the way, this is just my prediction in 2023. Look at it this way. I've said this before. Sorry, Rob, because you come on all live streams. Sometimes I'm redundant. My apologies, my friend. Good to have you on deck. But here's the thing. Grandma and grandpa stayed together from my generation. I was born in 81. All right. I was one of the last of the Mohegans that had no internet till we were 18. Right. At 18 years old, it was AOL. We had no internet. But grandma and grandpa, my grandparents in the 20s, they grew up, got married in the 50s. They'll stay together forever. Have the same house, same TV, same shag carpet, might even have the same car for fucking 30 years. Tell me I'm wrong on that. If you're not from that generation, maybe your great grandparents, okay? Next group. My parents' generation, they got married in the late 60s, early 70s. They stayed together longer than people would now, but they eventually usually get divorced about 10, 15, 20 years. Things just got too shitty. Now we get into my generation, people just don't get married. And if they do, they want a guarantee. If they do, they want to do it maybe a little bit later, because there's been so many divorces, and now divorces aren't shunned as much. And by the way, what is everything online? Live an optimal life, live a better life, live extreme. Marriage, really at its core, is not rose petals and wine glasses. It's a love pension. You're banking on, hey, we're going to grow old together, and then we'll have someone in the end. But in those middle parts, the 30s, 40s, 50s, there's going to be times of temptation. There's going to be times where I wish I never fucking married you. There's going to be time, and you got to overcome those things. But with everything on Instagram and social media right now going, hey, you can do better, or you could put up with that, it's fine. And that's okay. I think if you're going to have kids, get married. Otherwise, there's just going to be a lot more relationships that are not long-term. Al Pacino's having a kid at 83? Jeez. Man. That's amazing. That's an amazing story. Doesn't that show you how much status and money are related to the highest level of attraction for men? It was funny because there was a client of mine that was, she's 32 and she was dating a guy that was 62. And the guy was like in great shape. I don't want to give too many details about this. He was in great shape. He looked good for his age, but she just said, I knew it was just going to be we're seeing each other, but it's not going to be long term. I'm not going to be serious about it. And she's a good looking woman, right? So she knew that going in. But the part about him that wasn't adding up to get a woman 30 years younger, doesn't have a lot of money. He's just getting by. He's not living a luxurious life. And I thought maybe if he was rich, he might be able to. It sounds really shallow, but let's be real. Maybe he could keep that relationship going. But the fact that you look good, you're in your 60s, she's still 30 years younger. Why would she stay with someone like that? Why? Because of love? Get into details. We crossed that bridge this live stream a long time ago. What do you mean by that, Sex with Gods? You mean with the age different daddy issues? What's up, Cindy Daniel? How you doing, hun? Where are you at? Where do you live in Cali? Ben, when it comes to daddy issues, there's a variety of them. So everyone does the umbrella. Oh, it's daddy issues. It's like, well, what happened with the dad? Because it could be related to that. You know, if a woman is, if a woman is dating a guy 30 years older, you can immediately go, oh, it must be daddy issues. Not always. Because there's some guys that, you know, they're a catch when they're older. They take care of themselves. And if they have status or something like that, women that are younger can be attracted to them. And they can find them think about it in the different roles, right? If a man has an authority role, so this is another thing that's probably a tier or two lower than, I always reference a ball player. You know what I mean by a ball player? Someone that plays professional sports in America. I think in Europe, it's just probably the same way. I mean, you make money. You better take care of your body because it's part of your job. You have a purpose. You're in the public light. There's so many things to that. And that's why those guys are always cheating or have multiple kids, or movie stars are the same. But like if you go a tier lower, like a doctor, that's an authority figure, right? So that's someone that has status till they're 80, right? Someone that's a professor at Harvard, that's a status and an authority figure. If the girl or woman, excuse me, is going to Harvard and she's studying economics, which is boring as hell if you ask me. And this guy's like the economist, you know, times 10, he's got fucking 8 books, and he makes her his intern or research partner. And someone's like, oh, wow, how did they end up together? Well, he's an authority figure in an area that she's interested in, right? And so they end up together. Now, why doesn't this happen if the woman's 65 and she's an authority figure and the guy is 25? It does happen sometimes, just not as much. And that woman would have to be taking advantage of the guy. The guy might, there's a secondary gain outside of attraction. So think about it that way. A lot of times when you're clinging to things that you or your friends or family are doing things and they're like, I can't believe they're doing it, there's a secondary gain. Okay, this is a big thing to learn in psychology, and you'll start noticing it when you're like, why does this person keep doing this? Right? A good way to look at this, what's up, Petty Betty? A good way to look at this is that a classic example of it is someone gets in a car accident. Knock on wood. Don't even like talking about this shit. But this is a classic example. They get in a car accident. They're not really that hurt, right? But they're going to sue the city of San Francisco, water truck driver, because that's who hit them. So they can sue him or her, whoever's driving the truck. But guess what? They got to keep the ailment. They got to keep the back pain and the neck pain. And in order to do that, they actually have to tell their mind they're a victim. They have to tell all their friends how bad the accident was so that they can validate getting the $1 million lawsuit. Think about that. They've had people that, I don't know what it is. I can't get rid of this back pain and I can't sleep at night. And they're like, so what's going on in your life? And then they're like, well, I got this lawsuit going right now. And da-da-da-da. And it's like, well, let the lawsuit go. I don't want to let the lawsuit go. There's so much. Well, the lawsuit's going to last another 2 years. Well, you might lose who you are then. Because in order to win this lawsuit and validate it, you got to be this big victim with a lot of pain. And so when people do some weird shit, there's a secondary gain. And it's the same thing with, someone massively older. Maybe beyond the attraction, the secondary gain is their wisdom, their leadership. They're an authority figure, right? It doesn't translate as well a 25-year-old guy with a 45-year-old woman. It still happens. It's just not as common. It's just not as common. Why is that? I'd like to get you guys' opinion. Why do you think that's different? I do think it's possible that a woman could be like 5, 6 years older, but then those relationships don't last longer either. And at the end of the day, hypergamy is true. Women are going to look for guys that are equal or higher value to what they believe equal or higher value is. If they are in an environment where they're constantly getting new guys like dating apps, then they're constantly changing the pendulum. They're constantly changing the bar of what's higher or equal. Where men will go, she's hot. I don't care. She works at Burger King, but that's cool. I get free burgers. All right, let me check in on you guys here. Elaborate a little. Good to have you on, Rita Rose. Double standard stinks, though. Patriarchal sizes. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? And give me some examples. Explicit details, LOL. You did a really good job, Sex with God's, conveying your story. You got a really nice tone to it. Very casual. I'm glad that you're enjoying singlehood again. And it's really interesting. Another caveat to your story, Sex with Gods, is that you're an example. We could talk about this another time, maybe another show. But you're broken up 2 weeks now. You were in a breakup, I believe, a year ago when you first came across my work or came to me to talk. You got back with your ex. Things were pretty good, and now you've broken up again. And it sounds like, or feels like, this second breakup, you're like, okay, a lot of the same patterns happened. I'm okay. I'm okay. And sometimes what people don't realize when they come to me, it's like you're chasing a relationship or a person that it might not work out and it might not be your fault, but go ahead and do it. See what happens. But you broke up the first time for a reason. And the second time, if it's the same type of reasons or patterns, then you can be okay with that. This 23-year-old tried to ask me out on the real, and I was like, nah, come on. I get neurotic. Like, what do you really want? Do goes think that if they're older guys? Do guys think that way if they're older? Rita Rose, how old are you? I think you're my age, right? I don't want to say for sure, but I think you're like 39, 40. You're from New York, right? If I'm correct, you're a musician, if I remember you correctly. Or you lived in, for some reason, I'm thinking France or Paris, but you're in New York. Musician. 39. Maybe that was a year ago. So that's the thing. The 23-year-old guy asks you out and you automatically think, come on. I mean, honestly, if you're going to go out with a 23-year-old guy, whether you're 23 again or not, it's probably not going to be long term. Right? It's like this is a great example of Hollywood. Eat, Pray, Love with the great Julia Roberts, right? I hadn't seen that movie in years. I don't even remember when it first came out or what. I think maybe, I don't know, in the last couple of years, I think when I was visiting with my mother, it was on or something. And she just automatically, after her bad breakup of, being with a guy that was her husband or long-term partner, and she automatically ends up with this guy who, I forgot his name. He's a famous actor. That's in his late 20s, and she's got to be late 30s, early 40s, and the guy's just all over and can't. It's like that doesn't happen all the time. It's just a movie. But women can absolutely be older, be sexy, be pursued by younger guys. It's just that people in their early 20s, and I deal with this in my coaching when I get people 22, 23, 24, I'm like, look, was this going to be the last person you were ever with? Probably not. Maybe in the 1950s, that's how it was. But look how that worked out. A lot of miserable marriages. I don't know. I have a hard time understanding who wants to date people as old as your parents. Even status foundation seems weak. So Ben, good question. My take is that it's different for different people. For example, an easy way to look at that, if you had a woman whom is attractive and she's 28 years old, grew up extremely poor from a rural family, rural area, has no skills, never went to college, which college doesn't really matter anymore, but just stay with me. And she meets a guy that's 65 that's extremely rich, that can take care of her and not have to worry about feeding her family and her loved ones. Well, then that's a secondary gain outside of attraction. And that's something that when I tell you that story, you're like, yeah, but you don't even understand how that would feel because you've never been there, right? And so that's where you get into people do it for different reasons, right? And the money's the classic one. But for example, like movie stars, the interesting thing about actors and actresses, people think they know Robert De Niro or Clint Eastwood or Brad Pitt or Whitney Houston. I just watched the movie on her. You think you know them, the royal family. You don't know them. It's a facade. They're professional actors. Do you know everything about them? So they're in love with the characters that they play in movies, almost on a godlike level. And so that's another reason, someone goes with someone older. Wow, I was just talking about Argentina yesterday. This is ironic. Just went to lunch with someone that was married to a man from Argentina for 11 years. And she was just talking about Argentina. This is a place I really like to go. I've had a few clients that are from there. And I've met some people from there, and you got a real charm to Argentinians, or societies that have a lot of machismo. It's such a good look being an older woman because it appears like an emasculation of the male counterpart. Who's to say it might not be long-term, LOL, if one doesn't look their age in this case? I think people take better care of themselves now too. And then you got surgery, which helps men and women, sometimes worse off. Petty Betty just asked what a shit test means. I looked it up on Google, and I'll tell you what. A shit test is a premeditated social challenge set up by a man or woman. I disagree that it's premeditated. I don't think people plan this in their hotel or their bedroom prior to going on a date, or I don't know why I said hotel, but usually a woman to test and assess the target reaction to the social challenge. Shit tests most often refer to dating and seduction, and as a rule of thumb, the person who shit tests is the person who chooses. So I do agree with that part. If someone's shit testing you, they're the one that feel like they're deciding. I don't know who came up with shit tests. That's a good question. I know it's mentioned in Red Pill quite a bit with Rollo Tomasi. Red Pill's losing steam right now, though. They're losing some credibility. The age thing will always eventually come up in most cases, be an issue. I usually think a dude is older. He thinks I'm younger. Then the spread ends up being 10 to 15 years old. So what do you think? What do you think an ideal spread of age is? Like, what do you think it is? 10 years, 15 years? I think for me, in my judging, I would say 10 to 15 years would be the max. But I also think it counts on what the spread is. If you're saying someone's 42, I'm 42, and someone's 30, I think that's not as bad a spread as if you said someone's 32 and someone's 20. There's a lot of adult years to be made in your 20s. So I would say that counts. The maturity of the individual counts, and how well they take care of themselves. If you're going to date someone older, they better have some good habits on taking care of themselves. You don't want to be dating someone that's eats unhealthy, is a little bit overweight, doesn't value healthy food, those kinds of things. And they're older, because that's going to matriculate. Now, the people that are like, there's women I know that I've coached before that are like in their 40s, and they married a guy 20 years older, 25 years older, 30 years older. And they're like, it wasn't because of the money. It wasn't because of the visa. Yeah, it was. You've been fighting that for a long time. Just accept that that's the truth, and it's okay. The consequence of that, which there's always a trade-off, is when the guy gets to 70 to 80, that's tough. Right, you're getting into a vicinity that's a pretty big thing. But don't act like, oh, I don't know what happened. One lady texted me a couple of years ago, I don't know what happened. My husband's 73 now, and I'm 40. She had all these provocative photos on IG. She was getting ready to be single again. She's like, I didn't do it for the money or the visa. Yeah, you did. Whenever someone says, I didn't steal the cookie from the cookie jar as the 5-year-old would do, they probably stole the cookie from the cookie jar. You probably are doing what you're declaring without me asking. I'm not an ageist per se. It's more a matter of placement in one's life trajectory, wants and needs. I'm with you, Rita Rose. I get what you mean about that. I don't think any guy wants to be with a woman who spanks him and says, who's your mommy? No, I don't think they do either. Do you know about the shit test? Oh God, Mary's going to be all over this, huh? Do you think the women that are on right now, because we've got a good mix, the women that are on right now, do you think that you give guys a shit test without knowing you're doing it? I think one of the things maybe just be how a guy reacts to a story you're telling or a situation you're saying. That's getting recorded. Rob will know shit tests. Give an example of a few different classic shit tests. Now, I did pull up a video I haven't even got to yet. We got 13 on deck. I do appreciate it. If you guys want to throw a super chat, go ahead. If you don't, that's just fine too. If you want to send in your story to writemac.com, go ahead. All right. So this guy, and I bet chicks like older men, who's your dad? He can't type too much in time to joke. It's not always, I think that it's not always a daddy issue thing. I think women are attracted to older men. And the story goes, hot trumps any test. Good for you. That's a great point. That's a great point, Rita Rose, because I think guys get caught in game and all those other things. And at the end of the day, if there's high levels of attraction, it beats a lot. It beats a lot. And you can, you know what I mean? And you're attracted to people for different reasons. Sometimes, attraction's not really a choice. You don't sit there and defy it. Chemistry-based attraction can grow. Classic one. So you say when a woman says, I have a boyfriend, that's a shit test? You know how I talk. So does that mean I always shit testing? No, I don't feel like you always are. So let's get to this video. It says 5 shit test secrets every man should know. This guy's a pickup artist. The video is only about 8 minutes. So let me see if I can pull this up for you guys. Remove that one. And let's see if we can watch this other one together and get you guys' take. And just tell me what you guys this is kind of fun because this guy's like an ultimate pickup artist, and I always feel like, is he wearing makeup? I mean, it's kind of funny, some of these guys that are in the pickup community, and they know psychology and these things closely. I believe them that they get a lot of women. The quality that they get is debatable, right? At the end of the day, we can, I always talk about fishing. We can go out and go fishing and go catch, 20 carp with bread balls, at a local pond, but no one likes to eat carp, right? You want salmon. Okay. So let's get into this. Let's see if we can pull this up. What's the best response to a shit test? All right. So I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to play this for you guys and we'll react to this together. And it's nice because it's just 7 minutes, unlike my hour-long live streams, right? Everyone keeps telling me, you got to make shorter videos, man. All right. So let's get into it.
So what happened, right? You walked up to this girl. You started talking. At first, she wasn't very receptive. Then you got lucky, quite frankly, with the name thing and triggered some kind of a response. And then you were kind of like cool but playerish and triggered some shit tests. So if you could choose to have it exist or not exist, which would you choose? Not exist, right? So that strongly leans towards ignoring it, right? So in general, ignore it. If you have a really brilliant tease that you just cannot help but get off your chest because it's so good, then by all means tease, right? But if there's something that's not a positive for the set, you are free to ignore it. You don't have to call out every single thing. And so specifically, if the girl's being unreceptive in some way, being like, you're being tough to talk to, why would you ever call that out? It can only make things worse. But you're giving me the limp dick handshake, or you're giving me this like limp fish, whatever, limp fish handshake. Yeah, if you call it out, it's only a negative thing, right? So don't bother calling it out. Don't make a big deal of it. That's the major lesson here, right? In the same way that if a girl is like refusing to talk to you, you don't call out and be like, oh, you're trying hard not to talk to me. Because now you've taken this thing that's nebulous and kind of ephemeral, and you've made it like extremely tangible. So you've taken this negative and made it like a serious, solid negative. Okay? You really want to avoid doing that, right? So when non-positive things happen, oftentimes the best thing to do is just ignore them rather than call attention to them. If you are going to call attention to them, you have to tease, right? And if you're going to tease, it has to be like actually exaggerated and funny, not just commenting on it. So this is actually quite bad. Like the set was going quite well up to this point, but this is actually just full bad. You finally like absolutely passed the shit test. Like there is an absolute, at this moment, there's a truce and you agreed you like each other, right? And so what you do here makes sense. You're like, okay, fine. We've agreed we like each other. Let me try and close. Fair enough. Okay, I get it. However, you've only like just passed the shit test 1 second ago, right? So instead of being like, okay, I passed the shit test, let me immediately rush to a close. How about I passed the shit test? Now we have a good interaction. And because we have a good interaction, I can qualify the girl. I can build rapport with the girl. I can get to know the girl. I can all these different things. Does that make sense? Yeah. So basically, it's almost like you had 2 countries at war, and you literally just declared a ceasefire, and then the next day the president calls the other one and says, "Let's be best friends now." Right? It's just a little. It's so sudden, and it's so like it it doesn't have as much fullness as it could, right? You finally got the opportunity to do in the set what you'd really like to do, which is connect. Now, if you were to connect over a coffee, that would be absolutely good. But here I would probably give some kind of an indication of the truth, or some kind of an agreement, or enjoy the fact that both of you like each other for a minute, and actually make that a thing in the interaction. Like, just call attention to it because it's a positive thing, right? And then see how she responds to that. Because you basically are like, okay, I got it, good. Now let me rush to the close. Yeah. And it just looks rushed. It does make sense to close here because you like finally got a positive. But again, you should have enough faith in yourself that you believe the longer you're going to interact with her, the more she's going to like you rather than the less. And so you should believe that while you may get a close now that you've agreed that it's positive, if you talked for another 30 seconds or a minute and got to know each other, you'd be even more likely to get a close at that point. Granted, the previous line was bad, but she actually was fine with it. She actually accepted it because she liked your vibe. So now why are you continuing to apologize? Again, move on. You don't need to address it, right? There's kind of, I don't know if you can call this a life principle, but it kind of is. By the way, I'll give you guys a good book recommendation, which is where I kind of got this idea from, which it dovetails with things I've learned in the past. But there's a great book called The Art of Learning by Joshua Waitzkin. Joshua Waitzkin was he was a very top level chess player. One of the lessons that he had, and this is a lesson from chess, but also applies to life as well. In the game of chess, there's kind of levels of mistakes you can make. Like if you were to like have a computer rate your game, it'll tell you this move was a blunder, which means it was just like absolute game losing mistake. This move's a mistake, which means at a high enough level, it's probably game losing, but maybe not. And then you have like inaccuracies, which are like, they're not good. They'll give you a slight disadvantage, but they're not like, you can recover from an inaccuracy. Or maybe like you may have gone from a winning position to an even position, or an even position to slightly worse, but it's not like it's not game over. Okay. And the point he made is that in chess, usually the first mistake you make in a position does not make the position unsalvageable. Like oftentimes, but it's very easy once you make that mistake, and especially if you thought you had a really good game and now you're like, oh shit, now I have to struggle. You thought you were winning and pushing, you're in a winning position, pushing to win, and now all of a sudden you're like losing and you're like trying to hang on. It's very easy to in that moment get frustrated and literally on the next move or the move after push too hard or press to get back what you had before, or just get frustrated and fed up, and then you make the deadly mistake. So oftentimes your first mistake isn't a problem. But when you start trying to correct your first mistake or start trying to get back what you had before the first mistake, you very quickly double down and make the game-ending blunder, right? This is very common here. So here, yeah, you had a really good set, and you made what was definitely a mistake. But she still indicated right after a mistake, you're still fine, I still like you, right? Maybe not as much as I did a minute ago, but she still was going along with it. She still agrees. A little hesitation, but she's still there. So you made your inaccuracy, but you were aware of your inaccuracy. And then you blundered. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's what you just did here. But the way you blundered is you're now justifying you're now talking about your inaccuracy. You're now talking about the mistake you made. Yeah. Which in game is a big problem because it's showing insecurity. It's making this thing that was a small inaccuracy. Now you're just blowing it up and putting a microscope on it. Like it's just not good. It's just not smart. But don't worry about in game where you were. Worry about where you are. Right? If you had an amazing set, and then the girl's friends came in and distracted her and kind of made it go from an amazing set to a just pretty good set. Don't be like, oh shit, it was amazing. Now
it's crazy, man. One of my clients that lives in England, I think he might have been in London, maybe outside of London. Really thick accent. London, I believe. He was telling me that these pickup artists actually have camps, like boot camps. I guess this guy was talking about a boot camp, and he's like, it's really popular in London. And he's like, you'll see the guys like out in front of a bar or a club, and they'll be being coached like before they go in the bar or club. And he's like, dude, a lot of the dudes out in front, he's like, they have no chance. Like they're not at a point. But the point of the coach is like, you got to get in there and fail. You got to get in there and try, which I get, right? But he's like, these boot camps that they take them on are like $2,000, $3,000 US. You know how many pounds that is, I don't know. But he was saying like, and it doesn't work, you know, like they don't close, they don't get the girl right away. But the ironic thing, going back to the thing I keep pounding about environments, it's like, so you want to master being some guy in a bar or a club picking up a bunch of women? You could do that. That's a different game you're playing, just like dating apps is different. You know what I mean? But like this idea that you're in a set and you're doing these things, what's interesting about these guys, and I'm not putting this guy down because I've seen some of his other videos, and for what he does, he gives very concise, relative advice, like actionable things. I don't always agree with the style and everything, but I don't know if they're assessing like what the person's looking for, because you're creating, you're making situations, because people that come to these boot camps and get this advice are looking for concrete directions. Like, oh, so I say this and then I do this and then I say this. And sometimes people will do that in a breakup coaching session. Not often. The only time that, because the way I conduct a coaching session, if it's a breakup, we go through your story together. I'll read it back to you and then I'll ask you questions. And then that gives us sequence. It gives us order. We don't miss something. And then along the way, we might stop at a point, go through some things. But if I just started out with no story or no background of what happened, and I just let you talk, or I just talk about relationship dynamics and attraction, I'm not really tailoring any advice for you. I'm giving you a general outlook. You know, like this is how you make pizza. You know, this is how you do it. Relationships are not like that. That's why people have a lot of problems with them. They are full of intricate little things that are surprising along the way. And really being able to trust your instincts or trust that you're okay in situations is a really good place to be. And that's why I say be yourself. Unfortunately, a lot of times some of these guys are being trained to be someone different in order to get a lot of women. And I don't even know if that's their goal. Their goal is more to just get one. Now, will that make them more attractive because they have more women around them? Sure. What's really interesting, just to close out this loop on what I'm saying, is if you're a pickup artist or you're, a game master, I wouldn't mind seeing some photos of your lineup. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Oh, I've slept with this many women. Oh, this is what I do. I do game. Like, who are you using this on though? Because friends of mine or guys that I've known that are quote unquote players or pickup artists, whether that's still a thing anymore, because I think that was really made big with Neil Strauss and whatnot. And ironically, Neil Strauss that wrote the game, all he writes about now, like if you're on his Instagram, is trauma. Like he's become a self-help guy. It's really weird because he was a full-on pickup artist. He got his name through that. He was a pickup artist for years. But I would just be curious, some of these guys that are the top pickup artists, I'm sure there's some hot women in there, but I'm sure there's some women in there that from the sideline you'd go, I wouldn't even be interested. You're diluting. I can go on about this, but this guy's advice and stuff, it's not bad. He's not he's heavily followed, right? It's just you wonder, oh, who is he with? Who has he been using this on? Right? Is it work? The sets and all this? To me, that's a lot of learning from a textbook style. Like you do this and then you do this and then you do that. I would prefer you get to a point where you're like, I spill a drink, I do this and I'll be fine. That's true attraction. When you can be all right being uncomfortably embarrassed about one thing and then rotate out of it, or just be yourself, or have someone agree to disagree, or have someone say they don't like the restaurant you wanted to go to and throw a fit, and then you're like, all right, we'll just go somewhere else. Or you might say, you know what, you have more power in every situation than you think. And when you start to run a playbook of this is how all women get courted, there is some rules to that. There are some things that are in attraction. But if you're checking your notes and doing boot camps and stuff, I would love to hear from these guys that go and do these kinds of boot camps and things, like, what did it help you learn? I know Clutch, that was in the pickup community much longer than I thought, who comes on the show sometimes. I think it was like 5 or 6 years. He said he learned a ton about psychology, like how to talk to people, sales. He didn't say sales, but it correlates with that. But he said on the flip side, it got to a point where he thought it wasn't healthy, the kind of women they were pursuing and the kind of results they were getting you. Thanks, Petty Betty. Jordi Jose Vidalis Rueda. Question. Absolutely, Jordi. Where are you from in the world? What a name. JJVR. Jordi Jose Vidalis Rueda. How do I get over someone who was nothing official? Who was nothing official? Sex happened way too quick, and she remained in contact with her abusive ex. Worked together, ex's fam business. She eventually went cold, and last I know, her fam and her ex had lunch, and they still work together. How do I get over someone who is nothing official, so not boyfriend and girlfriend? Sex happened way too quick. So my question would be, why did sex happen too quick, for you or for her? And to me personally, when someone says that, I don't know why. If you guys are both consenting and you were in the moment and you're at a certain age, you're in your 20s or 30s, I don't know why it would be bad. She remained in contact with her abusive ex. So that right there, Jordi Jose Vidalis Rieta, is separate than your situation. So what you're saying is, work together, ex's family biz. She eventually went cold, and last I know, her fam and her ex had lunch. So you're entering a situation where you think this is probably like, who does this? Why would she be this way? If her abusive ex, number one, does she feel like she's being abused? And if she is, you're not going to be the one to talk her out of that. So your morals and values and the way you were raised and the way you see the world are much different than her, just because you're from different backgrounds, from different places. And when I say backgrounds, it doesn't even necessarily mean you're from different cities. You could be from the same city, but be raised differently. So what she's willing to accept in a relationship with which abuse is never good, right? She needs to find the time and the place and the courage to overcome that on her own. You could be there for her, right? The other secondary gain here is the fact that there's a family business involved. There's money and job involved. So whenever there's a relationship where money or a job's involved, it's really difficult, because if a woman's with a guy who financially takes care of her, whether that's a rich, extravagant lifestyle or just getting by, bottom line, she's dependent on him. There's two things she loses if they break up. One of them hopefully would be love, lust, passion, intimacy, all those things that go in a romantic relationship. Number two, a job. Think about that for a minute. Think about when you just separate your life, your romantic life, from your job. When you lose your job, if it's a good job, if it's your only job, and by the way, if you're not qualified to get a lot of jobs, a lot of women that settle for being taken care of, newsflash, they don't have a lot of skills to get good jobs. So they're out on an island, and they eventually, when they get to their 30s, if they've been having men take care of them, they don't really know another job. So it's double to triple hard for them to break up, because they're not just losing love, but they're also losing money, their job, their livelihood. It's not ideal. They were probably influenced to be that way or manipulated into being that way at a young age. Maybe their mom taught them to do that. There's some women, their mom's like, always find a rich guy to take care of you. That's what men are supposed to do. And they followed the lead. Now, the abuse, what you don't realize from the outside, you're like, there's physical abuse. Why is she putting up with this? I don't know. There's some people that grow up with abuse and it's normal. There's some people that grow up in dysfunctional, shitty families, and then they're around normal. I shouldn't say normal. They're around healthy individuals that have had good upbringings, and it's boring. It's foreign. It's uncomfortable. They don't think they're good enough to be in those relationships. Does that make sense, Jordy? So the idea that you're not getting over her, you just had stronger feelings for her. And you're assuming, hey, I'm the better guy because I'm not hitting her. I'm not physically abusing her. So why would she choose this jerk? Good question. You're not going to know all those answers. Now, if you profiled her like a psychiatrist, they'd be like, oh, she looks like she's got bipolar. She was abused when she was young. There's all kinds of different things to figure that out. What I would tell you is book a live coaching session with myself and we'll go over the story so you can get a little more clear on it instead of just this surface-based thing of wrong versus right. Okay? You're just like, oh, this is wrong, this is right. You don't know the whole story. So that being said, her remaining in contact with them, the fact that you know that she remained in contact with her ex means that you are probably, I'm not going to assume, covert stalking her on social media to get some details. And that right there alone will keep you in the game, but you're not really in the game. You're a fucking spectator. Now, I said that harshly for a reason. You're the guy in the cheap seats at the game that's telling the guy, oh, you're a bum. Oh, you're the worst player. This and that. You're a spectator. You're not even in the game. And then you're like, oh, I think that player might have hurt his ankle. I think she might be thinking this. You're already out of the game. Don't take it personal. Whatever her connection is with her ex, it's her business. She's got to get through that. Now, if she comes to you and she's like, it's raining, it's the middle of the night, and she's like, Jordy, Jose, Vidales, Rueda, please open the door. I miss you so much. I left that guy. He's crazy. I'm scared. Can you help me? Now, that might not all go right, but that's a start. Now, what you're doing is like, look how bad she's going back to this guy when she could have me. There's a variety of things you're not seeing there. A lot of guys don't realize that some women like drama, challenge, roller coaster ride, and you don't know why. How did you find out, though? Social media or through friends, detective work? I always ask that first. Like, how do you know? Sometimes people are like, I don't know. You're assuming. I got to get to bed. Thank you for addressing my video. Do you think others still want to record video or continue to write in? I think a majority of people prefer to write in. I enjoyed, because you have a way that you could tell a story. You had a good tone. You kept sequence. You didn't get off the topic. So it was really good what you did. Anyone that wants to record a video and send it in the past, I used to do a recorded video for other people that was non-public. A lot of people like that. So they would send their story and I'd make a private video. So in my experience, most people don't want their face shown in relationship stuff. That being said, if anyone wants to record one and send it in, I'll show it on the live stream and we can get into it. And I just want to say thank you, Sex with Gods, but maybe I'll call you SWG. Well, not anymore. I just found out right after the set. Oh, yeah, you're right. Social media. All right, fine. No, I'm not trying to make an example out of you or talk down to you because everyone does it. It's a minefield. It will absolutely keep you in a bad place post breakup. So there's two choices I recommend. And if you're like, oh, I can't do that, you can. You're just choosing not to. Okay? There's people out there that are crack cocaine addicts. I can't stop smoking crack. You can. You just don't want to. Okay? So, session's $125 an hour. If you don't find it useful or helpful, I'll give you your money back. So, the social media thing is you're just getting a snippet. And so you go on that snippet, you go on that puzzle piece, and you're like, oh, this is the mind starts putting together these stories that you don't even know are true or not true. When in reality, the idea too, like that you're, oh, we probably had intimacy too soon. You don't know that. You're just thinking that now because things didn't work out. But really, if you're going to get intimate and you guys are both attracted to each other, fine. It just was a moment where you were like, oh, we're connected. I want a long-term relationship. She still had her foot in another door. Did you meet on a dating app, or how'd you meet this individual, Jordy? Because if you meet him on a dating app, it doesn't mean it's bad. It's just someone you don't know that well. That's all. And I've found the brief times I've been on dating apps, you find there's a lot of needy people. All right, so just stop the bleeding, Jordy, and do not contact. If she left you, she went back to an abusive partner, just stay away of that. If she wants to come back, she will. If she wants your help, she'll ask. Right? I have a lot of friends and family that have issues in relationships or different things. Sometimes I want to jump in there and I have to wait till you ask me for my help. We went to high school together, but didn't meet there at all. And what people don't realize is some people are at different spots. Like someone can have intimacy and not be extremely attracted to you, or it could have just been a moment or something like that. And you're like, oh, we did it too soon. Not really. It's just timing and circumstance. So if you meet her, just like in high school, you weren't anything at all, but then years later, something happened. Same thing right now. She's got to find a way to get through this abusive ex. And the fact that she works together with the family, don't get involved in that. That's an entanglement that she needs to work through, and you're not going to have the answers to. Right? And sometimes, I hate to say this, sometimes things have to get worse before they get better. So that means that whatever she's going through, she's probably not sharing everything about it. And if you said in high school, so you're in your early 20s. If you're in your early 20s, I'm assuming, but check me if I'm wrong. Sometimes girls just want to have fun. Exactly. People in their 20s, they're just more impulsive, less committed than ever before, and more likely to have a fling, to not contact you again. And now the difference is people do texting or social media. So there's other passive ways to communicate that aren't in person or on the phone directly. And those communication styles, when you break up, hurt people because they leave more open loops. Does that make sense? So you're more like, oh, they just texted me this, or they just stopped texting me. What does that mean? Well, doesn't mean they're interested. It's not personal when someone isn't wanting to get in a committed relationship with you, but in a moment they were highly attracted to you, you guys comforted each other, and you guys had some fun. And then you're like, well, I want to do that again. And they're like, nah, it sucks. Best I ever had, dog. I like that. Nice close. Well, there you go. There you go, Jordy. As the great Drake said, the best I ever had. I think that was his big first hit. So that's what I'll tell clients a lot of times. The reason you're chasing is because you're highly attracted to her. It was the best you ever had intimately. You got to just get back out there. But sitting in the cheap seats, being a spectator, oh yeah, she's in an abusive relationship. She's not even. It's like, dude, you're that guy at the ball game that's 700 pounds, never played the sport in his life, and he's yelling every 5 minutes how stupid the guy is pitching or scoring the goal. Right? Like, you're not in the game. You're a heckler in the crowd and no one's listening. Right? You're that guy in the cheap seats. It's going, play. Oh, look at this guy sucks. Oh, this guy, look at her. Take 2 steps back, my friend. And you've been like, I used to go to sporting events all the time. I don't go anymore because I don't live in America anymore, but go to a basketball game or something. I remember this guy usually they're drunk, right? Usually they're drunk. He's just going on about Baron Davis and about different things. I don't know what it was, but he kept getting up. And they ended up kicking him out of the game. And the thing about it is what the guy doesn't realize with everyone in the crowd, he somehow thinks everyone in the crowd thinks what he thinks and like, oh, that's cool, man. But everyone else is like, sit the fuck down. I want to watch the game. Right? It's common now. Look at social media too. You're a sniper heckler now. People come in with comments sometimes. I mean, Instagram is one of the worst. You make a comment on Instagram about a post and someone doesn't agree with it and they just take shots at each other and you don't even know who these people are. And they're just coming up with canned responses. Be glad it happened, not sad it's over. Easier said than done, bud. I know, Ben. It's good that you can say that to someone else. But here's what you do have, my great friend Jordi Jose Vidalis Riata. You have a new best you ever had. But before you had that best you ever had, right? You had another best you ever had. So find a new best you ever had, right? You ain't that close to her. If you're with a woman that's, to be perfectly frank, too, if she's in an abusive relationship now, let alone she goes back to it, regardless of the situation, even if she came running back to you, a lot of drama there, probably needs to get a therapist or a coach like myself to sift through it. And the thing is, the person that's the partner, and let's get to the bottom of it. You like that you guys had great intimacy. So that's at the core of everything. The thing that's going to go along with that, if she came back to you, the other guy's still going to be in the picture. He's a part of her job. It's just countless drama. So yeah, Ben's right. Be thankful it's over. Savor the fact that you had some great intimacy and you were part of that intimacy. That's the thing about good intimacy. It takes 2. So something you did was a part of that. So make that happen for someone else. Heckler means someone who says things to insult others. Yeah. And hecklers are usually at game, like sporting events, right? And they usually say things from the crowd, right? That they wouldn't say to people personally. And this is what's happening on social media now. It's crazy. I've learned so many, probably because Australia, it's different, huh? We have different slang words. All right. We're on 2 hours, 20 minutes. Anyone have any closing questions for me? I think this was a good one. Thanks to Sex to Gods to sending his sex with gods, sending in his story of a date. If you guys want to send in a story in the future, go to writemac.com. If you want to send in book a live coaching session, go to writemac.com, Mr. Jordy. If not, that's okay too. Let me know if there's a few in the comments. If anyone watches this all the way through after, if there's something you want me to. Petty Betty, I don't know if you're ready to come on today. I got 2 hours, 20 minutes. I got to go eat lunch, hon. It's 12:30 p.m. for me. It's probably 12:30 a.m. for you, for a lot of you. Rye Flint, you're ready to go pretty soon, I assume, yeah? You keep telling me you're going to call in. Let's see here. Yeah, I like when I get a client from Australia because of the time that they book is usually afternoon for me too. We're in the same hemisphere. Rob's a night owl. Very soon. Okay. Keeps the mystery up, right? All right. Fun times in Asia, eh? Always. In the same time. Fun times, yeah. Although it is a rainy season here right now. All right, folks, it's been good. It's been grand. Thanks for coming on. Ben W., thanks for hanging out the whole time. You're pretty much there from the get-go. Rye Flint, as always, you are appreciated. Petty Betty, you're okay too sometimes. I hope to be on tomorrow, Rob. Get back on deck. Get back into the routine. It's been good. But you are appreciated also, Rob. Mr. Jordy Jose, good to see you. Sex with Gods, he went to bed already. Rita Rose, thank you. Yeah, we had a few different. Cindy came on for a minute from the great Fresno. Take care, and it is curtains.